Hello, it's me, Dave, and this is Tony
Hello.
from Wigan Cult Film Club. We've just got in from watching Magnum Force
Yeah.
up at Lee Film Factory. They've got a season at the minute, Clint Eastwood season, and I kind of wanted to go up and support them because they've been very kind to me of recent and asked me to do the poster for them, which was it was fun to do, and we figured out a way of giving them some prints they could sell and stuff like that, because we want to help them try and raise as much money as they can, because all those guys do it for pretty much nothing.
Nothing, yeah, it's all volunteer, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a great little cinema, and it was good. Really
Really
nice seeing it on big screen.
Yeah, I'd never seen it on a big screen before. So
I don't think I've seen any of the Dirty Harrys on a big screen. But it was nice having a bit of Lalo Schifrin.
Yeah.
And rest in peace.
Yeah.
And just like dead colourful. That's what came across to me. It looked dead colourful. But I'm banging on. Right, so did a little thing the other week where what did you call it? Is there a name for it?
Yeah, it was called Memoirs of a Cinema Goer.
That's the one, and we're doing another one, but this time it's reversed. So instead of him asking me to bang on all night, I'll be flinging the same questions at Tony. And so let's kick him off.
Yeah, go for it.
So I can't remember him because I can't remember what day it is or what trousers I've got on. I remember these trousers because they're covered in jelly baby dust thanks to the lack of lighting in Lee Film Factory. But anyway, yeah. So we had a list of films that, a list of questions with regard to films, and the idea is ask people, guests, friends, anyone who wants to be involved.
Anyone who wants to get involved.
Questions, and they're kind of like probably the most open-ended questions you're gonna get.
Because
you can interpret it any way you like.
Okay.
Yeah. So as if you'd seen the last one, and wasted a full hour of your life on listening to me bang on about 101 Dalmatians, I'm going to hit Tony with some of the same questions. Right, so first question we came to was first film.
Yeah.
What was your first film?
So, for such a long time, I had this vivid memory, and it was a solid memory as well. It wasn't just something a little bit, it was there. And I could see myself sat in the chair, and I could see myself watching this film on a big screen. And again, it was at the Ritz in town. So if you're a certain age, ABC, well, for us, it was the Ritz in Wigan. And it was E.T. And for such a long time, I had this vivid memory of watching E.T. and that being the first thing I ever saw.
What year was E.T.?
So E.T. was 82, 83.
Look that up.
Yeah, look it up. Yeah. And I'm born 77. Yeah. So I'd have been sort of 6, I think, when E.T. came out, give or take. And it wasn't till, it's not even that long ago. It's like maybe 3 years, and I was doing some research for a video that I can't remember if it was on somebody else's channel or it was on this channel, but I'd done some research into this particular film, and I thought, there's no way that came before E.T. because I remember going to this film. I remember seeing this film, and again, it's a vivid memory. I went with my granddad, and my granddad took us to the cinema. I won't say regular, but I remember going to the cinema with my granddad. Like, my parents aren't big cinema goers at all. My dad ain't much time for sitting there and watching something on a big screen. Never has that. So my granddad used to take us to quite a bit. And this film I was like, no, that can't be. Then it opened the floodgates. And it turns out, after the research and stuff I did, the first film I ever saw and vividly remember seeing was Condor Man.
No way, really?
Condor Man.
Right, okay.
So 1980. But then, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love Condor Man.
Yeah, one of the best car chases you're ever going to get.
It's brilliant. If you're into the whole superhero scene, and if you're a Batman fan especially, this is like...
Someone's done it before.
Yeah, this is like Batman, but if Laurel and Hardy had done it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Norman Wisdom.
To be honest, it's a type of thing that would sit very well now. We're steeped in superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But at the time, there wasn't really anything like it because it's not just a superhero story, is it?
It's not, no. So he's a comic book artist.
Yeah. You know what they're like.
Yeah, right. But that's how the story starts. And if you don't know the film, it's Michael Crawford. So in the UK, he was known as a TV star.
Yeah,
a big
comedy
TV
TV
star.
Physical comedy.
Yeah,
star,
and he was big in a program called Some Mothers Do Have Them. So if you're from the States or wherever watching this, just go and check out Some Mothers Do Have Them. No,
in fact, go and check out possibly the finest theme tune to any TV show you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Some Mothers Do Have Them.
Yeah,
Just a flute.
Yeah, it's just a flute. But the TV show itself, I never liked it. I still don't like it.
No. It was like the TV show equivalent of Firefox. You had half an hour, 29 minutes to sit through, and then you'd get to an incredible over-the-top stunt comedy scene at the end of every episode.
That he'd done himself.
That he'd done himself, where he's getting dragged along the back of a bus on his roller skates.
Yeah, he's stuck on his bicycle.
Or he's gone through a window, or he's blown up, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's all done for comedy effect. But good God, his life's at risk in every episode.
Yeah.
Well, the rest of it before it, you're like, when's it get to the end?
Yeah, and he always had the tagline, "Oh, Betty," and all this kind of nonsense. And it was just, it's not my thing. But I think my granddad may have liked him.
Right, yeah.
So he must have seen
this. He was liked.
Yeah, he was massive.
Yeah, he was.
But my granddad must have seen the trailer for this film and thought, Some Mothers Do Have Them in it.
Crawford.
Probably didn't even know the guy's name, but Some Mothers Do Have Them in this film. I like that TV programme.
He's probably going to go in a river in a shopping trolley. I'll watch that.
Exactly. I'll take her, Anthony, watching it.
Yeah.
So we went, and I instinctively and vividly remember the whole film. Now, I would have been 3, maybe coming on for 4, which is bizarre because I don't remember anything, mate. I have the worst memory ever. But I really, it just really stands out. And like I said, with my granddad, it must have been the fact that he'd seen Michael Crawford in a TV show. He'd thought, well, that looks all right. We'll go and watch that. Now, if you know the TV show, the film setup is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So he's a comic book writer and an artist that also designs gadgets that can be used in a real world scenario that he wants the military to use, but the military are never going to use them. But he then gets sucked in somehow to take some film negative. Are the Italians? Because the bad guy's played by Oliver Reed.
He's one of them. He's like a henchman with the glass eyes.
Yeah, Oliver Reed probably doesn't even know he's in this film because he is shit-faced from start to end. He's fucking
But that's his life.
Yeah. But the way the plot sort of rolls is they use Michael Crawford, they class him as a secret agent, he thinks he's a secret agent, but the agency that's using him think he's a bumbling fool, and in that way he won't get detected.
Yeah.
Because he's that stupid, it can't be true.
Yeah, it's kind of Inspector Gadget-y.
Very.
He bumbles through stuff.
Yeah. But then what happens is he brings the character of Condor Man to life, and he uses the persona of Condor Man and the gadgets. But like I say, it's very Batman-esque, but everything's painted yellow and red.
What? It's a good comparison, that, because as a kid watching the Batman TV show, you watch it with different eyes to an adult. Yeah. The adults know what it is. It's a flat-out, colourful comedy that repeats jokes, but looks like it's taking itself seriously. Yeah. And kids don't watch it that way. Kids watch it in its Batman. Yeah. The running joke of Batman carrying a bomb on a pier and he can't find anywhere to put it. He goes somewhere.
Pigeons or something.
Pigeons or someone on a bike, and he goes, "Oh God." To an adult, that's funny. To a kid, that's like, well, what's he going to do with this bomb? You know. Yeah. And Condor Man has the same vibe.
He does,
because at that age, I mean, I was a bit older, so I'm at school, and all the kids were talking about Condor Man and how cool he was.
Yeah.
Not about this subplot of he's not really a superhero.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter when Michael Crawford opens them massive wings and just goes and does what he does.
Yeah.
It plays different, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you talk about gadgets and things like that, but what it does, it sets up a series of events where he uses over the top vehicles to get out of the scenario.
Yeah.
So he's got his car is amazing. Yeah, so there's a scene in it where there is a car chase. Now I'm not 100% sure what the car is that they use for his car.
Yeah.
It looks like a Lamborghini that might have had some stuff glued to it. It's got that look.
Yeah.
But there's 4 black Porsches that are chasing him.
Yeah.
And the Porsches
slick
as anything, and they stay in this perfect line behind it.
It's like Scale Electric.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And where the first one goes, the second one follows, the third one follows, the fourth one follows, and they're weaving in and out in perfect time. It's amazing to watch. Now, considering this was a Disney film, I'd always known it as a Disney film. Like many Disney films at that particular time, it wasn't a straight up Disney film. It was a Disney Paramount crossover.
They were trying stuff as well.
So Disney did a few films with Paramount.
Was Black Hole with them?
I'm not sure. It might be straight Disney, but the other ones. One film that nearly came close to probably being the first film I'd ever seen, because this was close as well as, but around the same time, the Popeye film.
Oh yeah.
So that was the later days. Condor Man came out before it, and then Popeye came out later. No, Popeye was a big deal.
It was, despite what it is.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
Big deal. And
because Popeye was literally on it every day at one point. If it wasn't like the old Fleischer style black and white cartoons, it was the all new Popeye show.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that he doesn't exist anymore.
No, he's not in pop culture at all.
He was riddled with him at that point. Every kid knew who Popeye was, and he to kind of spin it to get strong and blah, blah, blah. But he's gone now.
Yep.
That's mad, isn't it?
Crazy.
But the film was a big deal.
The film was a big deal, and that was a Walt Disney Paramount crossover, as was Dragon Slayer that was out at the same time. I said it's about 82, I think. Dragon Slayer.
That sort of era of Disney trying stuff
because they were working with other companies. Disney on their own at that time were great for you just straight up family friendly. Sit your kids down in front of either it be a theatre or TV on VHS, and away you went. But when they mixed it up with other companies, it worked really well, and that's where Condor Man really came into its own.
They had their own. Disney, as we all probably know, have their famous animations. But they were one of the few companies who said, like, well, let's re-release them again and again.
Yeah.
And so they got loads out of those animations.
Yeah, it is.
And then I'm guessing that's kind of the thing that might have given the impetus to say, well, let's make a film about like some explorers who go through a black hole with this villain.
Yeah.
And they all end up in hell and release it for the kids.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars was big.
Or
whatever it was. But they were always, back then, it felt like they were pushing stuff. Dragon Slayer being a great example.
Dragon Slayer's a great film.
Love that film.
You know what I mean? Well, like I said, Condor Man, I mean, it holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I recently give it a rewatch again because I thought, is it just nostalgia that I'm holding on to watching it? And no, it's actually really good. The practicals in it are fantastic. So again, like we were talking about his vehicles, he's got this really slick car. Yeah. He's got a really slick powerboat in it as well for some reason.
Yeah. Well, doesn't the car turn into the boat?
Car turns into the boat when it hits the water.
It reminds you of like, it looks like a Matchbox
yes,
car.
It
like
does.
The one that they've made up.
Yeah.
It's got Condor on it. And
we watched Corvette Summer.
That's another one,
Yeah, the car is very similar.
But it looks like how a kid would draw. Listen, lads,
it's like a dragon.
This is what a Corvette looks like. What would you do to make it cool?
Yeah.
Give it some zaps on the front and fired outside. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, so his persona is a condor. He thinks he can fly and soar like a condor. So he's got wings in his suit that open out like telegraphic glider, and he just he doesn't fly, but he glides. It's like a big glider.
It's the proto Batman thing.
Yeah.
Being able to open the cape and...
So you see the stunt of someone diving off the
Eiffel
Tower with it, and it's cool. It's a cool film, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. And I don't know if it's because it's again one of those Disney films that was done with another company that just got shoved under the mat, like the ones we've already mentioned, that didn't get enough sort of airtime on TV and stuff like that.
It was from an era of film as well, where advertising back then was kind of limited as to how do you get this in front of the kids.
Yeah.
One of the surefire ways of doing it, but I could probably name the films that they did it with on two hands, was there was a kids show in the UK called Blue Peter, and it was basically, here's how you make a space shuttle out of an egg box, and here's a story this week, a reportage on a tortoise, and here's we'll interview this kid who swam for 50 feet or something with like one leg, and so it's all this like mad stuff, but in the middle of this regular, it wasn't daily, was it, Blue Peter? It was like, I would say weekly, maybe.
I would say 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, it was a pretty regular show, enough that everyone knew what it was. And every so often, in would come R2D2 and C3PO, or Biggles, or Chesney Hawkes, or somebody from a film that somebody somewhere wanted plugging in the UK.
It was a British film,
It was a type of show. It was a type of place where you would find, hey, we're going to show you a clip from Condor Man. Utterly random program, Blue Peter, because they go straight from like, well, let's go and see what's going on in the garden outside. And then when we come back in, here's a car chase with a guy with one eye, and Condor Man's going to escape. And I didn't expect that coming up, but it would be the type of thing that would live on in the playground the next day.
Yeah, of course.
People come into school and go, did you see that clip of Condor Man, and then the word spread around the schools. And suddenly the cinemas are full. Because that was a mainline sort of like straight into the kids' brains. Blue Peter, perfect timing. They're having the tea. They're watching it, and then
you need to go and see this film. But it's funny because films at that time had started like marketing themselves with toys and colouring books and stuff like that. Condor Man never got anything. Like Disney just didn't. They obviously didn't trust it, and they didn't. Maybe they didn't like it, so they didn't push it.
Because it straddles the two things. It's Batman 66 or whatever you want to call it. It is funny for the adults, but it's got the kids because of what he does in it. But it's a risk on both sides, because maybe the adults think like, well, he's flying around dressed as a condor. Maybe the kids think, oh, there's a lot of talking in this bit, and so you don't know whether it's landing on both sides. I mean, plenty of other examples of where they've tried to do that, but modern film, sort of, I suppose Toy Story is a great example of. It's a great film. It's a good story, but they know adults are taking kids, and it's what you call it, in jokes.
Nods.
Whereas Condor Man, it is Batman 66. It's playing to two audiences. And how do you market and sell that? I mean, to be fair, we both know if there was a Condor Man car out there, a Matchbox one, everybody would have had it as much as the Batmobile.
Yeah, of course they would.
Because it was a
just because it
car,
looks so
seen in the cinema, brilliant. But it's also in a film with a pissed up Oliver Reed and a guy who runs outside trying to kill people, and you're like, well, how does that sit? You know. So I can only guess it's Disney probably didn't know what they had.
And that happened to Disney regular, didn't it? You know, Black Cauldron. Black Cauldron was another one. They didn't know what to do with that.
There were toys of like Black Hole, but again, I think that's another one where, like, it looks, to all intents and purposes, that's a kid's film. It's space adventure. Star Wars has just come out. Let's have a bit of this. Bring out some figures and stuff. And it's dark as out. Anthony Perkins gets shredded by Maximilian. And in the end, Ryan Hart ends up in hell. It's been hell in a kid's film. So that thing of let's bring the studios in, Dragon Slayer. That
was another Disney teaming up with Paramount.
Who wouldn't have liked a dragon like from Dragon Slayer? Perfectly designed dragon.
Brilliant. Probably the best that's ever been put to film.
I I'd say probably a couple of little claws ahead of Rain of Fire.
Yeah.
But still along those lines of that, the big lizard thing. They brought out a little figure of him with his egg.
Yeah.
And the dragon.
Yeah.
You'd be made up as a kid.
Oh, yeah. But I think at that time, like you said, they just didn't know what they was doing and didn't know what they was aiming at.
Yeah.
But Condor Man got a release in cinemas, and I think it did okay.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, we still remember it, so it must have.
Yeah,
Well, it did massive with the kids, I think, because loads of people remember it.
Yeah, and I would imagine it did alright on home media, so when it came to VHS, it probably did alright.
Yeah.
It's still staggering that it's only ever a DVD release in this country. It's never gone past DVD. So if you've got the DVD of Condor Man, that's the best you're ever going to see it.
It's on Disney Plus.
I think it may be on Disney Plus.
Ooh,
I think it may be on Disney Plus. But I think if it, I've got, there's something at the back of my head that's saying it is on there, but it's only in 4:3 pan and scan.
Right.
It's not in widescreen.
Even more reason to watch it on my telly.
But no, yeah, Condor Man. I mean,
so you thought it was E.T.
I always thought it was E.T. because I think E.T. was that big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't off cinemas for 12 months.
Yeah,
it just ran, and so all the other stuff got pushed to one side. It's going, E.T.'s the first thing I've ever seen, and then you think about it. I was 6-year-old. That's probably the right time. I don't know.
E.T. and Condor Man are a fine example of like stuff that was unbelievably massive at the time, and no kid has anywhere near heard of it nowadays.
Yeah, the same again with Popeye. I remember watching Popeye at the cinema as well. And again, at the time of it coming out, it was a big deal. It was massive.
Well, I've got a sneaking suspicion that if the industry wants to keep a thing alive because it's making enough money, that Star Wars, Marvel, right, then they're going to pump money into it. And my wife does a TV extra work, and she's constantly trying to guess. Oh, they want me in Manchester. I wonder if they're going to make a Marvel film in Manchester. She's hoping she'll suddenly be in the background behind Thor and whatever. But she keeps thinking, oh, there's this Liverpool one. I've heard that they're making these Beatles films, right? And is it what's his name? Some big director or whatever.
Yeah.
Sam Mendes.
Yes.
Is doing four Beatles films.
Yeah.
Right, and you think about my son at school now. He's probably never even heard the name the Beatles.
Yeah.
Right, and the day is coming when he's not in the popular culture. Even Elvis, who's obviously still massive in Vegas.
Yeah.
Outside of there, no kid on earth knows who he is.
Dying off.
Right, and you think this was the biggest star in the world
at
one point. Now I'm saying exactly the same thing about Rhett Butler and whatever else Gone with the Wind. There's no kid on earth who knows what that is now, and there's not many people from my generation who've never bothered watching it.
Yeah.
So time moves on, but some stuff they decide, well, let's perpetuate this. And I think that's what the Beatles thing is. Someone somewhere is sitting on the rights, billions of pounds in Beatles records. How do we keep people interested in this? Let's bring out the 4 films from the Bond, and loads of stuff, absolutely tons of stuff, like Condor Man, like E.T. E.T. still baffles me that it's just gone. Yeah, it's the biggest film in the world. At the time. Everyone was talking about E.T. with pictures of him hugging Michael Jackson and all sorts, and he's gone. Right, and if it can happen to a film like that, then if there's no profit in it, somebody will just go, let's move on to Pokemon. Or whatever it is.
No, that's right. It is right. And, you know what I mean, for those people who haven't seen these films, like, I would always tell people to watch Condor Man. It's a bit slapstick. It probably is a bit hawky now. But it's still worth a watch. The one that I always tell people to go back and watch is Popeye.
Right.
Because if you watch it now with a different set of eyes, the film's blistering. It's amazing. It's a really good piece of cinema.
Did you see that clip last week or a couple of weeks back where somebody's talking about, producers talking about Popeye? And he said it's in the history of the studio that he worked for however many decades. He said it was the most coked up film he'd ever worked on in his entire career. He He said they were shipping it in film reels. He said everyone was in that film.
You can tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And all I remember of it as a kid was it was just mumbling for like a couple of hours and stuff happening, but just going.
Yeah, from Williams. Yeah, he's. I mean, he hits the role on the head. He looks the part. The prosthetics that they put on his arms are just phenomenally good for that time period. The set that they built in Malta is still there to this day. You can still go and visit and see it.
And it was of the spirit of a lot of the Popeye cartoons, which never really had to make much sense.
No.
Tentacle appears, he batters it, and then...
Yeah, Blue Toe's done something, or Tullamon's done something, Wimpy's got into mischief again.
Wimpy.
Yeah, but like I said, at the time, Condor Man and Popeye, there were two big films, they're both 1980, so it took me ages to realise that they were the first two films I'd seen. For years and years and years, I'd always thought it was E.T.
Right, so that's first question. Right, so question 2. It was best film.
Yeah, I mean, it's always got to be a difficult one, the best thing you've ever seen.
But remember what you said, it's not necessarily like what is the best film. It is it can be whatever you want, that question. It could be what is my best film? What is my best film this week?
Yeah.
What is my best film that I had
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time, the best thing I'd ever seen at the cinema, and again, the older, for me, the older I've been, the more I appreciate things. When I was younger, I liked things because I was a kid, probably.
Yeah.
But with older eyes, you start to look at things. Now, I wouldn't say that I still love this particular film, but when I saw it for the first time, it was so groundbreaking in what it did that it made you go, hold on a minute, this is like really good. And it was Avatar.
Oh, right, okay.
Now, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the first one did it for me massively.
Yeah.
But actually going in to see Avatar for the very first time with an audience and donning your 3D glasses, which hadn't really been done like that at that point.
Yeah.
And I was a bit, is this going to be really shit? I'm sat here with some stupid gags on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Going to be someone with us.
Yeah. Porky things, yo-yos, and you know what I mean? All the crap that come before throwing things at a screen.
Or that mad little elephant out of that Moonwalker film with Michael Jackson.
Yes.
When it just chucks a can at the screen.
Yeah.
That's mad.
And then you sit down and you put your glasses on and it kicks in and you go, this isn't 3D as I know 3D. This is unreal.
Yeah.
It felt like you could really reach out and interact with what you were seeing.
Yeah.
There's one particular scene, and the scene's nothing, and it's where they're in an office.
Yeah.
And if you know the film, it's the bit before the soldiers get into like the mech things that they've got.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's like some kind of control centre. Mate, the control panels and everything that were there in front of you.
It's always the little scenes, I think. The one that stuck out for me is when Quaritch, his name, isn't it? He's in the cockpit of the big thing at the end.
Yeah.
He's having a cup of tea like that. And all the arrows go ping, 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 bouncing off the glass. And there's a shot from just to the side of the cockpit.
Yeah.
And you can see the depth of him stood in this thing, looking out the window, looking down at them. And that goes back to, the classic, we said the classic 3D thing.
Yes.
I think Cameron set out not to do that,
but
to open a hole that you looked in.
Yeah, basically.
Because all this 3D works in the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's not about sticking out.
No.
It's about looking in.
Looking in.
Yeah.
Is that depth of vision, depth of
it's just
perspective
3D.
or something?
Yeah.
It worked the whole way through the film.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a part in it where the 3D doesn't work.
Yeah.
it immerses you like I'd never been immersed in a film in my life.
Yeah.
Now, there's films I've seen, whether I was younger, whether I was older, whatever, that I've been immersed in, but not immersed by. And it feels like you're really sat in that film.
Yeah, yeah.
It's unreal. And even the stuff that came after it never worked as good.
No.
As what Avatar did. And loads of films tried the whole 3D thing, and it never really hit a mark.
It very quickly established, listen, if you're going to do it, this is how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ones that come out at the time, it was the Clash of the Titans, or maybe the follow-up to Clash of the Titans.
Wrath.
Yeah, and they decided, after they'd filmed it, we're going to 3D convert this. And it was rife, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you can spot a 3D convert because, let's say, somebody stood in this room and their hand's there, their hand looks flat.
Yes.
And Avatar did it incredibly well, where it wouldn't look like a flat hand, it would look like a rounded hand.
Yeah.
And they improved it again on the second one. I know, some people don't rate the films. Fine, that's up to you. I get it. Personally, they really hit a proper 40s sci-fi.
Yeah, massively,
because it's blue cat people on a colourful planet, like purple aliens.
Yeah.
But there was another totally innocuous little moment in the second one where they're getting chased around these kelp things by people in long subs with 2 of them in it, and the one who's at the front of the cockpit is piloting it and looking out through this glass, and the glass curves a bit. Doesn't just go around in a circle, it goes along, and then it curves a bit like that. And you see the depth of that. I'm like, I know they're firing lasers and harpoons at massive whale creatures that don't exist. But why does that impress me so much? And it was because they genuinely got the shape of everything in the 3D right. And I'm totally robbing your answer here, but Avatar was a big one for me as well because it pushed stuff. But that's a moment in that second one where I'm sitting watching it with the wife and stuff, and it's at night, and it's when the kids get nabbed by the other avatars, now or whatever, and they just start firing into the forest, and they all start ducking behind trees. And when them bullets went through like that, that was the first time in the film where something was coming out of the screen and not going in.
Yeah.
And we heard the whole cinema gasp and go, oh, whoa, like that. The grown-ups all going, whoa.
Yeah, because it is.
He knows what he's doing.
He does know what he's doing. Yeah. And I don't think anybody else has ever got anywhere near it. Hence the death of 3D films.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they're trying with 4DX, whatever the hell it is now, spraying water and flinging it around in the church. Nah, it's shit. It's like a fairground ride. I'm not interested. But 3D, I've always enjoyed 3D films. Even old school Anaglyph, I've always enjoyed 3D films. But this was just 3D on steroids. It was just next level. And because we've not
and clear.
Yeah, unreal.
That was the thing. That's what it was.
Unreal. And because we'd not seen anything like that before, pretty much not seen anything else after it.
Yeah.
I think it just stands out. I mean, going back and watching the film now, I can watch it. Do I enjoy it as much as I did as that cinema experience at that time? Yeah. No, I don't, because it's not the same watching it on your home TV.
You haven't got an IMAX in your house.
No, and I've not got a bizarre 3D setup. I've just not got the capabilities of doing it. Yeah. But it is still the standout film for me of all time.
Yeah.
And like I say, I've seen other stuff in 3D. The original, the re-release of Jaws in 3D, was it last year? The year before,
I didn't go to that one we used, did I? But
amazing.
Yeah, it was good.
To see an old film rendered in 3D in such a way that it made it look like a new film, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But just to see the pinnacle of that technology at that time, it was amazing. Some messages going everywhere, going here.
It was the type of thing where I was forcing my family members to go and see it.
Yeah.
Because I said, if you don't go and see this, you won't see something utterly new in a cinema. Because you're going to always go and see the cinema because it's a nice standard format. We know what we're getting. But that, and the second one especially, I was going nuts saying, listen, I know it's dear.
Yeah.
But seriously, even if you don't care about the film, just go and see what they've done, because you'll never see anything else like it.
Yeah.
Until you get USB in the back of your head and or whatever.
Johnny Mnemonic style.
Yeah, or you get a Wild Palms like hologram room or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm with you, because it's just since being a kid and being going to the cinema as an adult is one of the first adult experiences in the cinema where you give it a wow. You go, oh, I didn't think a flat screen could do this.
Yeah. And it was nice that there was merch tied into it as well. So there was toys and, you know what I mean? So, again, you know what I mean? This guy knows what he's doing, and he's thought long and hard about it and gone, this is the way to do 3D. This is how we're going to wow people. Yeah. Check this shit out.
He's also, as well, I mean, lots of people complain about Avatar. I don't get how people like that and all that kind of stuff. If it's not your taste, it's not your taste. Fair enough. But I genuinely think he's consistent.
Very.
Just the way he approaches a film, the fact that he decides, you know what, I'm not going to just go up and turn up with a camera. We're going to do something else.
Yeah.
So every time a project gets suggested, that's his next thing. I know he's got more Avatars coming, but he's just signed up to do something else.
Yeah.
Like a sci-fi thing or something. And that excites me, because a guy who knows what he's doing and wants cinema to be unbelievable for you to really get your money's worth, going on to a new project, I'm like, yes. And I kind of used to be a bit like that with Nolan. I'm like, oh, he's going to do something else. It's going to be great. But there's a lot of Nolan stuff doesn't land with me.
Yeah.
I imagine it's really good, and don't kill me for it, but I didn't really fancy Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Never got round to it.
Yeah, because it's one of them kind of films for me.
Kind of got to be in a mood for it.
Do you know what's going to happen? It's not as though it's just telling a tale leading up to that point in time. Same with Titanic.
Yeah.
I get what Cameron did with Titanic.
Yeah. Wonder what happens at the end.
I wonder what happens at the end. Well, spoiler, it's a fucking iceberg and sinks. You know what I mean? We sang about it at fucking primary school, for Christ's sake.
And it was like, I know what he's doing. He's telling a story within that.
Within the confines of an event that happened. Yeah, I get it.
But sometimes the core idea of a film doesn't appeal to people. I will never understand people who don't fancy going and seeing a Transformers film. Yeah. But then again, Michael Bay's kicked that out of him. You know what I mean? But that's my taste, and other people have other tastes, and for some people, Oppenheimer's the best thing they've ever seen. Yeah. For loads of other people, it would appear, despite the fact that it's the first and second or somewhat like best performing films ever in the history of cinema. Loads of people tell me they don't like Avatar. Yeah. Oh, it's just this and it's just that. Yeah, but it's just this and just that, done incredibly well.
Done the best you're ever going to see it.
Yeah, done by
a genius.
Technical master who wants to push your experience in those things.
I mean, don't forget, this was a guy that was the protege of Roger Corman.
Yeah.
And came up through the ranks of Corman, gluing egg boxes to walls to turn them into what looked like Star Wars rip-offs.
Also, it's like he's like a film student's dream of like learning how he approaches stuff, because it's not just let's use the CGI on this. You know, like he only built half the boat of Titanic, then a load of costumes that were the other way around. Yeah, so he could flip the film in the camera. And you think, okay, mate, you've come up through the ranks, knowing what you're doing. Yeah, and it's all these little clever things, all the stuff in Aliens where it's like rear projection. And you think, well, it's just so simple, and yet it works. A kid would think to do that at school, and he's doing it, and it works. Because if it works in camera, then great. So to take that mind and say, listen, whatever budget you want, it's yours. Go and make double zap, wham, blam.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? But like I say, I don't think we'll ever get another piece of cinema that was at that level at that particular time. Yeah.
He might come up with something
just because it was so groundbreaking. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously got to be something else out there. Yeah. But for someone to study 3D film like no one had studied Titanic Lift and gone, well, do you know what? This is probably feasible if we do it this way. And then ran with it, and then it worked. And then, like you say, everyone then tried to emulate it, but just couldn't. Yeah. just couldn't pull it off.
Well, you always hear like about the stories of him doing Spider-Man back in the day before, like the Sam Raimi one, where it was going to be the first ever film with a CGI person in it.
Yeah.
You were going to believe it. Chances are it probably wouldn't have worked, but he's clever enough to say, no, it wouldn't. So I'll leave it for 20 years and then I'll come back when I think I can do it. And it does work.
Yeah.
And every time he's done that, he's come back with something and you've gone, Jesus, wet mate, you've just moved us on.
Yeah.
And what's weird is he's shown the world that a flat cinema screen can do unbelievable things, and yet nobody but him is doing it.
Yeah.
That's something I don't get. I know that they retrofit 3D.
Yeah.
But, if someone comes up and makes a superhero film and everyone goes, let's make a superhero film, somebody comes up and does like in the 80s, like cop shooting everyone film. Let's do lots of cops shooting everyone film. But he did something that moved everything on with a massive leap, and not a single person's followed him.
I think probably people were frightened to try and emulate something that was so good, and financially as well. How much must that cost?
Yeah.
And studios don't want to throw that much money into something unless they know it's a surefire winner. And I think anybody other than Cameron having a go at it, studios probably want to back them.
Also, his films are like Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
In the way that Mr. Bean, you can sell that in any country.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to worry about whether the language translates.
Because he doesn't speak.
Yeah, and in his films, what's it about? Big blue cat running around and battering people in mechs.
Yeah.
Who gives a stuff what they're saying?
Yeah.
Put it on, But that's a good one. That I didn't know that was yours. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Nice insight. Right, okay. What's the next one? Right. Ooh, here we go. Your choice as to how to answer this. Worst film.
So...
Avatar.
So it started off as the worst thing I'd ever seen, and at the time, the worst sort of piece of cinema experience,
right,
or the worst cinema experience I've ever had at that time.
Right.
For the simple fact, my love of this franchise was massive.
Yeah.
And when this film hit, it hit at a point at the time when the franchise was pretty much dying off.
Yeah.
And the studio that got it was Canon. So if you know Canon films, you know that 50% of what they do is pretty good.
Yeah.
50% of what they do is pretty bad.
They get by on charm a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
And
what they did.
When a company like Canon releases the fact that they're going to do a Master of the Universe film, people go,
Yes,
it's fucking Master of the Universe. What actually happened was every kid of my age, especially every lad of my age, went to watch this film at cinemas, came out and said the exact same thing. What the fuck have I just watched? Because that wasn't He-Man.
Or as soon as Gwildor was introduced, every child's face in the cinema went,
yeah, who's he? Where's Orko? Who's this guy that's like half samurai, half cyborg?
We can't afford to have a floating purple ghost with a top hat. So what we have got is a dwarf.
He's a dwarf in makeup
who can't move his mouth.
Yeah. And I was just, it was soul destroying.
Yeah.
To see such a beloved franchise just absolutely mauled. Not the fact that Dolph Lundgren at that particular time couldn't fucking act.
Yeah.
Not the fact that
Frank Langella kept calling him Neil.
Yeah, Neil. I mean, to be fair, Frank Langella's probably the best thing in it.
Yeah. Apart from the last 5 seconds where he comes out the water and that.
It's like they wanted it to be the cartoon.
Yeah.
But
did they? This is the thing. See, like I get adaptations. Like Pete's got a theory about this new Masters of the Universe, which kind of makes sense. He thinks they're doing what Barbie did, where they're telling a story, not from the perspective of like you're watching Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
Where's Ram Man? Here he is. Way go Stratos. It's he doesn't think they're doing that. He thinks they're doing it from the point of view of, he said their costumes are so toy accurate.
Yeah, they are.
That when they're appearing wherever they are, Earth or their planet or whatever it is, it's about them actually being created from or being linked to the toys themselves. Right,
Makes sense.
Which puts it into this whole other realm, which I don't want it to be in.
Yeah.
I don't want to knock on something before we know what it's about.
Yeah,
but the one you're talking about, the canon one, they looked at He-Man.
Yeah,
they picked out what they thought worked.
Yeah,
and I think the problem was they missed everything that made it work for kids.
Yeah,
because
massively.
I don't know about you, but for me, it was the first toy and stories and cartoon that came along that perfectly matched magic and sorcery and like fantasy stuff with technology.
You did with science fiction. Yeah,
and you're thinking, oh, that guy's got like furry shorts, like an underpants, and like a belt,
but he's got blasters on his arms.
He's got blasters on his arms. He's got a dead long robot neck. What the? But it was that brilliant mixture of the two. Now, for whatever reason, the toy and the cartoon took off. I think the film missed what it was doing. Yeah,
it missed every point.
Yeah, massively so.
Yeah. Now, it brought some of the more beloved characters in, but by name only, really.
Yeah, there was nothing of times there.
No, Evelyn didn't look like Evelyn, but Evelyn was in it. Beastman doesn't look like Beastman, but Beastman's in it.
And they put that fella in who looked like he was from like 80s glam metal.
Yeah.
Big old boof. Running around with his head bobbling.
The only thing it did was for a pretty much dying toy line at that point when Masters came out. It sort of resurrected it a little bit because it brought these characters from the film into the universe. They got their own toy line and it sort of carried it a little bit. Now, whether that's the angle they was going for and they thought they could just prolong what was going to be the inevitability of the toy line, I don't know. But I just remember coming out the screening of that just being angry. Every other kid that had watched it going, I just don't get any of it. Now, that was then.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've pretty much grown to love it.
Right, so you're watching it with adult eyes now. And what you're getting from it now?
Is not a thing of nostalgia, because there's nothing nostalgic about it really, other than it was that film that I disliked when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You actually watch it now for what it is at the level of a canon film, for the money that was spent on it, for the actors that were brought in.
Canon, wasn't it? At
the time? Obviously Courtney Cox is in there. That was,
Tom Parrish out of Voyager. Tubular Synth.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name's in Back to the Future as well? Bald-headed dude plays the cop.
Strickland,
yeah. Like, he's in everything. He's the same in everything.
Yeah.
But he plays a cop in this, and he sort of doesn't believe him. Then he starts chasing around. Then he believes him, and no one believes him.
You know what? I think watching it retrospectively, you don't really pick up on this as a kid, but it happened a lot and it still happens in a lot of things where they're trying to translate a kid's thing and put it in the cinema.
Yeah.
They think you need people.
Yeah.
They think you need the guy from American small town, whatever, or the girl who's like lost her parents in a plane crash.
Yeah.
They think you need relatable people when it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Michael Bay's been doing it for a pigging decade with Transformers. Why do you keep putting people in it?
Yeah.
It's not called the Transformers and their friends, the people.
No.
It's just called Transform. And He-Man was the one where it's his world. Eternia's
the main focal point of it all.
Because to them, it's normal for Rio Blast to turn up, pop out this, and then the Mechaneck and buzz off.
Yeah.
It's their world that makes it fascinating. Why not set things there?
Yeah.
I mean, they get around to it usually 9 times out of 10, but most films translated from either a kid's thing or a book or whatever, they insist on putting this human angle in. And you think, well,
so like
nobody gives us stuff.
The beginning of the film, it does start off in Eternia, but you don't really see anything of it. you see some like dodgy cave that looks like it was filmed in Tunisia or somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where Gwildor's living. You see a little bit of Castle Grayskull that pretty much doesn't look like Castle Grayskull. It doesn't really resemble it in any way.
Well, nobody looks like what they look, really, do they?
Yeah, Skeletor's got all these troops with him, like stormtroopers, and you're going, well, hold on a minute. He never had any troops like that.
Yeah, he would just team against He-Man.
Yeah, he would just call in these bad guys, these bad characters, for every episode as he needed them. As the storyline fit. And I understand they needed a team of people and Skeletor being Skeletor. But the other problem is with the film that He-Man is always He-Man. He's never Prince Adam.
Yeah, that's the thing.
At all.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, as a scriptwriter, you'd be going, how am I going to do this?
Yeah, right? but like, even still at the beginning, have him as Prince Adam, you know what I mean? So people knew that no. So he's He-Man at the beginning, and then when he pulls the sword and shouts by the power of Grayskull, he turns into He-Man. No, nothing fucking happens. He just pulls the sword, says, I have the power. He's already He-Man. But when Skeletor manages to get the power sword and says the words, Skeletor changes and he ends up with all this cool gold looking armor on him.
Do you think, like, nowadays, if you're going to remake something, which they are doing Master of the Universe, or whatever else, that's been popular of recent, Transformers and stuff, when they're remaking a childhood favourite thing, they do it through the eyes of nostalgia, right? As in, like, what was it that might have resonated with kids at the time?
Yeah.
Right? But when you were doing it back then, I don't think they were looking at it that way. I think they were saying, how can we turn this into something that we want to do?
Yeah.
Instead of, because like I found there was nothing about Skeletor that was Skeletor at all.
No, nothing, because instead of the dry sense of humour that you get off Skeletor from the cartoons, and the overwhelming cockiness of him, to the point where he's like a comedic character.
He's also,
you don't get anything off that.
Yeah, he's also like, I know they're all bizarre. I know the figures are just weird shaped and everything, but there was something kind of fun about all the designs.
Yeah,
you could throw them all across the road, the figures, and squint and pick them out. Who.
Yeah.
Because there's bright blue Skeletor, there's orange Beastman.
Yeah, there's Buzz Off.
Yeah, the designs themselves, just to look at them was a big part of it and a big deal. When Michael Bay came up and did Transformers, I did a little jokey sort of like sketch and put it on Instagram, saying like my version of Optimus Prime in my head. It was Michael Bay's Optimus Prime fighting somebody on screen, and there's two robots punching each other, and like there's two people in the audience going, "Do you know which one's which?" I don't know which one's which. And my version of Transformers is like a Optimus Prime like jumping up in midair and turning into a robot like that and saying, "Let's have robot fun," and everyone in the audience going, "Yay!" Like that. It was the recognition of the fact that, like, Transformers 1 works on every level, I think.
Yeah, it does.
Because it takes what it was and it does not ignore the stuff we all liked. And Masters of the Universe massively did that. Skeletor didn't look like Skeletor. Even He-Man didn't look like He-Man.
No, he's got different shape, chest armour on. The power sword doesn't really look like the power sword.
What's going on, Teela? You look like a sexy mechanic.
Yeah.
You look great, don't get me wrong, but you don't look like Teela. So some kid wanders in and says, "Oh, you're watching, Dad?" Yeah. So I'm watching Masters of the Universe. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody in this who looks anything like anybody.
Yeah, Man of Terms is just dead crap in it. He's like, he's just, there's just nothing to him.
And it's been done before where let's introduce a new character. Transformers 1 does it, all that kind of stuff. And it's worked in other things. But somebody tries Gwildor on me again, I'm going to kill them. Right? And then they cover the little rat in barbecue sauce, and I've never felt so sick in my life. And all I'm thinking of is that dwarf in that mask. How's he getting it out? How's he cleaning himself? It drove me nuts.
But it is a bizarre film, but over the years I have.
It's become something else.
It has become massively something else.
But
But it's knowing what and who Cannon films were and what they did.
That lets you forgive it.
That lets you forgive it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm glad that, if nothing else, it perpetuated the name.
Yeah.
And it kept it put the He-Man name into mouths of people who didn't know, they give a stuff about the toys.
Yeah.
And therefore, they carried on, and the people who like the toys could have their fun.
Yeah, which is bizarre, really, that obviously Mattel will give them the rights to do it, but then had no creative design over what they did with it. So they must have just handed it over for the money, because Mattel at that point were on their arse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like...
Well, did it follow anything? Did it follow, like, anything else that was successful at bringing a toy to screen or something?
At that time?
Yeah. Because it would be weird if it just came out of nowhere. I mean, I know there's Star Wars, but Star Wars invented its toy. He-Man had been around for a while, hadn't he?
Oh, God, yeah. He'd been around since like early 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that had been anything out there, had been a toy line like that they decided to turn into a film. They must have just plugged away. I know there is a good documentary about the film, and about the Mattel as a company, the toy line, and where we are today.
Yeah.
And it's probably mentioned within the. I know they speak to Dolph Lundgren and speak to Frank Langella on it as well.
Yeah.
They may mention it in that. I'm not sure.
Well,
but it's. You know what I mean? But if you watch it now, it is quite charming in its own stupid way.
Yeah, so it was at one point your worst film.
Yeah, massively. I don't think there was a film that I was disappointed in more than what that was when it first came out.
So that's a good variation on the worst film.
Yeah,
because it's not like definitively don't watch it. I mean, we put it on the club.
Yeah, we watched it in the club. Yeah,
so. Right, so we've done that one. Right, okay. We'll go on to this. The next one was event film.
So we hit that right demographic age where event cinema was a huge thing. The hype behind films, the hype train that went along with a lot of this stuff was phenomenal. It was a female. You don't see it anymore. You don't see... You do see event cinema, but not like you did in the 80s, early 90s. You can talk your Marvel stuff, whatever. That's probably the biggest event cinema that we've had of this generation.
We've talked about this before, I think, where pretty much all cinema back then was event.
Yeah.
Because now the companies, the studios, create events to try and pull people up to that level where, like, they've just done the tour for Jurassic World or Jurassic Park 20 or whatever it is, and they're doing these premieres around the world, and in the hope that it will draw people up and get them to go to the cinema. But back then, as we said the last time, going to the cinema was an event anyway.
Yeah.
So if you went to go and watch It Goes Bananas, you'd get straight in. But if you went to watch Flash, you'd be queuing around the block. And you knew you were, but you went anyway.
Yeah, so the fact that we've got internet now, and any trailer or any sort of piece of information about a film that's up and coming is there at the tap of a finger. Back in the day, it wasn't. So you was watching... Do you remember the old, like, TV premiere things that used to come on where it used to hype a film up? And they'd be like 10 minutes long, and they'd speak to an actor or whatever. I remember seeing one for Indiana Jones and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'd come on RTV, wouldn't they, every so often and stuff like that. Like a Sunday afternoon or whatever.
Or they'd put it in Disney Time.
In Disney Time. And we had stuff like that. And obviously the stuff running in daily newspapers. You're picking magazines up. There's billboard posters, all this kind of stuff. Stuff that you just really don't see anymore because it costs money.
Yeah.
And to advertise and to market a film like certain films back in the day cost millions. So you looked at films that flopped, that were hyped, like Dick Tracy and things like that.
Oh God, yeah.
The money that was spent on the marketing alone on that film was mind blowing.
Yeah.
But the biggest film that stands out at all for me was Batman '89.
Right, yeah.
Batman '89.
Oh, shit, yeah, that was your event.
So in '89, I would have been 11, I think. And an 11-year-old, It may have even been the first film that I'd ever been to a cinema on my own to watch.
Right, okay, yeah.
So you'd had all the hype that went with it. You knew because they never really dropped. Trailers back in the day are not like trailers now where they spoil everything. They give you little snippets, you get some nice music, some nice overdubbing on it, someone talking about it, and that's it.
Wasn't the first trailer you just flew around the inside of the logo?
Yes, it was just a shot of the logo.
Yeah.
So, it's been released on the Friday, but the only chance you're going to get to see it is on the Saturday.
Yeah.
So, me and my friend Stephen Holland, hello Stephen if you're watching, we went to watch this film, first screening Saturday morning.
Right, okay.
At the Ritz Cinema in Wigan. And we didn't get in for the first screening because I have never seen a queue outside of the Ritz at that time like I've ever seen a queue.
Past John Menzies.
Oh, it was past John Menzies. It was down past Debenhams. It was
the big one.
Yeah, it was virtually going back down towards McDonald's. Like, it was unreal. There was thousands queuing.
You get in that queue, you actually don't know whether you're getting in.
Yeah, because there had only been 3 screenings.
Yeah.
In that, there'd have been 3 in that day at Ritz. Yeah. First one would have been lunchtime, and then so. Now the Ritz held a good number of people. I think at its max was it a couple of thousand. The main auditorium. I'm sure it was
because it was.
It was huge.
Theatre.
It was a theatre. Yeah, I'm sure it was a couple of thousand.
Yeah.
So if you work on the principle of 2,000 people in that screening, and we got in for the 3rd screening.
Yeah.
So that was 6,000 people
in one town,
in one town, in one day.
Only 400 people live.
Yes.
Old Wigan.
Yeah, I decided to queue in the sun.
Yeah.
It was just craziness.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. But while he was in the queue, people were talking about the film. What
getting
they think,
excited.
What they thought they was going to see, what they would talk about, what they wouldn't see.
Yeah,
people had Topps bubblegum cards.
I bet you loads of them had that poster from Looking.
Yeah, of course, yeah, exactly.
That you'd have been staring at intently for the past I don't know how many weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking apart every little bit of his costume. That bit of the Batmobile next to him and all. Yeah.
So it was like I'd never experienced anything like that. I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never experienced anything like that. And then you get in to watch the film and you're just blown away by it. Now, I've never been a comic book guy. I've never been into comic book films. But at that particular time, it was sort of fresh to get something like that. We had comic book adaptations, but they'd all been low-budget 70s stuff, hadn't they?
Yeah.
The 2 Captain America films. You'd had a couple of 70s Spider-Man films. Fantastic Four, the Roger Corman one, the 70s one. And it was like, all right, it is what it is. This thing came out and it was like, boom.
Yeah.
It was next level stuff.
Well, it sounds very daftness, but like when we were kids, if somebody made a film of a thing, that alone was a big deal.
Yeah.
So if it had made the jump from Batman 66 was TV series.
Yeah.
This was the first time we were seeing a world-known character, comic book character, in a film that you were going to go to the pictures to watch, and you knew it had money behind it.
Yep.
And just by saying there's a film of it, there's a film.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly it's a massive leap from what you've seen on TV, what you've read, to going to the cinema and having your event, because even by just being on the cinema, it becomes an event. But I think you're right. That was massive at the time. Yeah,
and like I said, other films tried. Like I said, Dick Tracy. I mean, the hype behind Dick Tracy was frightening.
I'm trying to think of some of the stuff because there was loads of stuff for sale that you could get. I don't know why, but I see it all in posters of that era.
Yeah.
And posters on my wall changed a lot. We had Wicket the Ewok up there for a while, and an alien coming through the door, and all that kind of stuff. Batman was up there for a long time. But Dick Tracy had invaded that poster space. It usually happens by getting a free one in a magazine.
Yeah. So again, looking,
smash it.
Looking was brilliant for it. Sent the pullouts in looking.
Yeah, and Dick Tracy was everywhere.
Everywhere.
Time, wasn't it? Yeah.
Warren Beatty as Dick Tracy.
Yeah. I think the look of
Madonna.
It played a big part, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean the style of it looked like the 60s TV show.
It looked like they were made out of licorice, all sorts.
Yeah. So if people remember the old 60s cartoon TV series, they pretty much set the world up to look like that. So the prosthetics on everybody made them look like these cartoon characters that most kids probably wouldn't have known anyway.
And to be fair, I don't think he was as big here as he was in the States.
It wasn't. I remember watching the cartoon on Syndicate, normally around school holiday time. So ITV would go, we need a 10-minute slot. What have
we got in the back room?
Dick Tracy's got to cost us about 10p each show. Put Dick Tracy on Syndicate again.
But it had a look to it, going back to Batman and stuff. It had a look to it of, like, we used to get the Looney Tunes all the time. You'd get the darts had finished early, so let's put some on. There was loads of filler stuff, but that Dick Tracy and the Fleischer Superman, and some like early sort of other superhero-y stuff felt like much rarer. You know, like you'd go to school and say, "Did you know Superman was on over the weekend?" "Oh, was it? I didn't see it." But it would be like 20 minutes of a incredibly well-made, like hand-drawn cartoon that really stood out from other stuff, and Dick Tracy was kind of one of them. But it was rare we got it here. It wasn't a regular show. It wasn't on a particular day you knew it was.
No, not at all.
It wasn't like Tuesday at 5 o'clock. 4:45. It wasn't.
It just felt like something that got off a shelf somewhere. Gone. Stick this on for 10 minutes at 12 on a Tuesday morning. You know what I mean? It's like kids have nothing else watching, school holidays, put this on.
But Batman, I'd say that made as big a leap for like cinema audiences as some of the bigger blockbusters from the 70s, because it took the very slightly next generation, because all the blockbusters in the 70s, apart from Star Wars maybe, a lot of people, of course, a huge cinema-going generation kind of missed when they were in the cinema. So they missed the fact that it was a film on the cinema. My generation grew up watching Jaws on telly. Because they'd missed it in the cinema. You know, a few years younger, you would have seen it. But people my age at school and stuff, they only ever saw it when it came on telly. But Batman felt like one of the first big things for that age group. This is yours. This is your big event. And I've got the lovely experience of, I was 16 at the time when I went over to stay with my auntie in the States. My cousin took me out. She said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I think Batman's on." And back in them days, you got it in the States before you got it here. So I was just on cloud nine. I'm like, not only am I going to see it, I'm going to see it in an American cinema, and I'm going to see it 4 weeks before my mates. I think it turned out that it moved closer between the American showing and the UK showing. But it was a great experience.
It was brilliant. And the thing that got us was the fact that this film was only a PG. And it was like super dark and super violent. And you're going, "Are you sure this film's really for me? This is like fucking brilliant." An 11-year-old kid watching this. And it wasn't the fact that I was a Batman fan. It wasn't the fact that I was a superhero fan. It's just the fact that the film was that good. And every part of it was just so well done. And it got you hooked. Not only was with the film how good it was, but everything else that was going on around it, it just suckered you straight in. So you wanted the Panini stickers. You wanted the Topps trading cards, the bubblegum cards. You wanted everything. And the only sort of brief sort of look into the film that you had were these still images on either a sticker or a bubblegum card. They didn't really show you anything or depict anything at all. But it was like, wow, that's going to happen in that film. And you don't get that anymore. There's no hype like that anymore.
Do you know what, as well? going back to like a lot of the stuff that we talk about going on to the showing in the club, it comes at the end of the 80s. It was 89 when it came out.
Yeah.
It comes at the end of an era where people were. We get that flag. It comes at the end of an era where people were innovating massively. So you had Gremlins, you had Back to the Future, you had all these things that were coming along, and they were a new idea, and we hadn't seen that before. But everyone knew Batman.
Yeah,
everyone knew it from other things, and suddenly it was a film.
Yep,
and it's like you said when you said, "Is this film really for me?"
Yeah.
And it was, because it was the first time. I have this notion that films in the 70s, they weren't made for kids.
No.
Right. What's that, Kramer versus Kramer?
Yeah.
No, you're all right.
You're all right, I'll give it a miss.
Whatever, Deliverance, I'm good, Tar. But then the 80s kind of felt like it was for teens and things.
Yeah, because I think the way advertisement laws were in America, they'd sort of like took the reins off them and gone, go on, see what you can sell.
Yeah,
see what you can sell to these kids.
So I mean, like,
just went mad.
The pinnacle of stuff would be like Raiders or something.
Yeah,
this was out before Batman, right?
Yeah.
So that's got melting Nazis and death and all sorts of stuff in it, right? But Batman was a squarely aimed at kids. Remember when you grew up watching Adam West with that bomb?
Yeah.
Look at his fucking car now.
Yeah, look at him now. Look at his suit.
Look at his car, God, So it was the film version of something we'd had for a long time. So yeah, it was a huge event, very much so. Yeah, I remember it massively.
Yeah.
So that's your event film right now. You can answer this one if you want, unless we've already done it. But it was the one that we made up at the last minute.
Go on, what was it? That one I can't remember.
And it was a film that changed how you see cinema. So, and there's an element of what you said about Avatar that did that, and we have had best film and event film. But remember last time I said the film that changed how I saw cinema was Gremlins, because it was the first film I wasn't supposed to see.
Yeah. So it's an odd one, really, because I'd have probably been, I'd have maybe been 16, maybe 17.
Yeah.
Older friends had started driving and things like that, and we was getting out to other cinemas more.
Yeah.
And I always remember us going over to Preston. It would have been Warner Brothers Cinema at Preston.
Right.
And on a Tuesday, they used to do a £2 deal on a Tuesday. So I'm looking at what here, 97. I'm probably going to cock dates up on this one.
Right.
But just off the cuff, we'd gone one night, not knowing about any of the films that were on. We were just going to watch something, pick something out.
Yeah.
Now, I'd been used to mainstream horror, and I've been used to your Friday the 13th, your Nightmare on Elm Street, your Halloweens.
Yeah.
Some of the Italian stuff that had started to come through, which I was finding on VHS, or being showed on VHS, being pointed in the right direction to it. This film, we just paid, got a ticket, went in, and I was like, right, okay, horror can be like this as well. And it was In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
Because I think up to that point...
Yeah, all Carpenter stuff, its home was on video, wasn't it?
Yeah. And except to that point, horror films have been quite linear.
Yeah.
You know where it starts, you know what the middle's going to be, and you know where it's going to end.
Yeah.
And everything had been quite slashery. You're coming out the back end of the 80s. Horror films had died off a little bit. To that point in the 90s, it wasn't really a thing anymore. I think Scream brings everybody back into it, but Scream's not that good.
Yeah, it's very
but it did something for the genre.
Yeah.
So In the Mouth of Madness just sort of like cruises under the radar.
Yeah.
And no one was really talking about it when it came out. And we didn't even know it was the film that was there.
Yeah.
And we watched it, and it's a John Carpenter film. Yeah. And we watched it, and I was like, right, okay, horror films can be something different other than what I've been watching, because this is just balls to the wall nuts.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's kind of Lovecraftian.
It's very Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Very Lovecraftian. And I hadn't been exposed to that kind of stuff at that point in time. I loved my slasher films. I loved the mainstream horror stuff. But that got me into thinking, well, there's other stuff out there. There's got to be other stuff out there that's like this. This can't be, this is it. And there was nothing that was a precursor to any of this.
There's plenty of it, but if you hadn't seen it up to that point because of your path. Then.
So it opened a lot of windows into other films for me that I went searching just because of that one film. And it's still not regarded as one of his best or one of his better films. And I don't think
it's rock solid though.
But it's solid from start to end. And Sam Neill is just fantastic in it.
Great in that film, isn't he?
He's just brilliant. You know what I mean? You had Sam Neill in a run of films that were, he just couldn't do any wrong. I don't know where that midge is a bit from.
I will have brought it with me.
So you had him in that, you had him in Event Horizon, which was brilliant in that. But there's just something about him in The Mouth of Madness. It is his descent into madness.
He's got a good do you fully trust him face? I don't think he's like a classically handsome fella.
No.
He's great at acting. But he's genuinely got a face where, like in Event Horizon, I kept expecting him to turn. Because he's got that kind of face. If he does that enough, he looks evil. But he's the victim in that film. But by the time you get to the end, he is in madness, and we've followed him. And he's got a great face. Do you know what? I think it's because of Omen 3.
Possibly.
Where you're thinking, like, what, is he evil? What, playing the main guy? And all that kind of stuff. So I often find if an actor's good enough, you can bring that stuff with you to the film. So you've seen Omen 3 and you go, well, Damien Thorne's here. I hope he gets killed. But he played it so well that by the time he'd lost his mind, you're like, okay, flipping heck, I get it.
And the more you go back and watch the film, the more you pull from it, the more you can interpret things in a different way. It never sets itself up. Every time you watch it, it's got a slight difference to it, which I think is brilliant because not everybody can pull that kind of thing off.
I think that's a big tick on the Carpenter front.
Brilliant.
Who'd have thought, like, you know, he's made They Live that long ago, and They Live, if you showed that now in cinemas, people would be going, that's exactly what it's like. Hold on a minute, this was what, 30, 40 years ago? Right. He, despite the fact that Carpenter's stuff is absolutely of its age, it's there with the synths, it's there with the particular sort of lens flares, it's there with that film grain. Sticks it exactly in the time period it was made. It's the reason behind it. Everything he's made is rock solid. Absolutely rock solid, and will never get, like, it'll never get worse, but you'll always find a bit more. Prince of Darkness, another a perfect example of it. Saw it the first time, went, I'm not sure what it's doing, and then he finishes me with that last 5 seconds, that last little moment and the thing. And I went, maybe I should watch that again. And then over time, we watched it. In fact, I'll get onto something in a bit. It might be a subject for another video, actually, but I thought that today about repeat viewers and stuff like that, and how back then, because of video and because of cinema the way it was, repeat viewing took a bit of effort. And if you wanted to watch a film, what are your choices? You wait for someone to come on telly.
Wait for 6 months for it to come to video, or wait for 2 years for it to come to telly.
You save £4 to go to the pictures and get the bus into town, or however much it was. Or you watch what you had on the shelf. Right, and that's why a lot of this stuff we talk about perpetuates, because we watched it repeatedly because we didn't really have a choice. If you want something now, you can torrent it in 5 seconds.
It's just a click of a
phone, you can watch it on the blog and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think current audiences. I don't know. We see it with George in the club, like one of the young members and stuff. But repeat viewing of stuff is probably not as relevant now as it was then. So I've started to think, all right, what have I watched where I've found something in it, and I've seen it at the time and gone, but then I've not watched it again. And so I've just today watched that animated Predator, Killer of Killers again.
All right, okay.
Again, because when I finished the first one, I thought, man, it's been the comics this. Oh, it's pretty good, pretty good. And I know if I could go the rest of my life, I'm probably will never put it on again.
Yeah.
But I will put Cannonball one on again.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I watched it to death on video, and the repeat viewing solidifies the comfort of it.
Yeah, because
right. So I thought I'll put it on again and see if I see more in it. And so I put it on again, and this time around, I thought the Viking was even more of a badass. I thought the ninja samurai fight was even more cool, and the designs of the Predators were even more fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And I thought, I need to do this a bit more. I need to take something that's been made now, that I enjoyed at the time, but I haven't talked about it since, and give it a repeat view and see if it starts to stick like Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah,
because we watched, what did we watch? Cannonball Run the other night.
Cannonball Run, yeah.
And I could read you the entire film.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it that many times, and I haven't got that with modern stuff. And I thought, well, maybe it is there because some people are doing it. George has watched, what was it? Not Free Willy. Willy's Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland. Yeah.
8,000 times.
Yeah.
Even his mum was singing the music in it because she's seen it that many times.
Yeah. UHF is alone with George, isn't it? He's battered that film to death.
Yeah, but he's seen something in it and he's gone.
Yeah.
And kids do that a lot.
Yeah,
you know, like Ren finds one particular YouTube clip funny, so it's on every goddamn day.
Yeah.
But that repetition solidifies it as something and gives you these memories we're trying to talk about here. And it's different now because it's streaming and this, that, and the other. We've talked about the fact that these questions will apply to other realms as well, not just cinema.
No.
And we'll touch on them at a later point. But flipping heck was I talking about?
In the Mouth of Madness.
It's about the madness. Yeah. At the time, I was just coming out of the repeat viewing thing because Christine watched.
Yeah.
Still gets me every time, Christine. She came from New York saying they live the thing, absolutely, yeah. So there was loads of things that repeated, and I think In the Mouth of Madness was one where I thought I'm going to have to force myself here because it was a slightly different experience, like we say, a bit Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
And it was just coming out of the era of me sitting down every night and putting something on. And so I forced myself to put it on again. I'll see what I get out of it again and again. And I managed to do it, managed to like put it into the comfort viewing.
Yeah.
But from that point on, I found myself not doing a major repeat of a lot of stuff. And I thought, oh, I need to get onto that. But Mouth of Madness, it's like all Carpenter stuff.
Yeah.
Go back to it, have a sniff, and you'll probably
because
find stuff in
like, just different scenes open up different aspects of the film at any given time, and you may have watched it 10 times, but all of a sudden you just notice something. You go, "How have I not clocked that on the first watch?"
Yeah.
Like you watch it for the first time. I mean, spoilers if nobody's ever seen it, but at this point I would imagine everybody else. Is that you think he's just mundanely going on, doing his job, doing his job to the finale, and he's gone mental.
Yeah.
Right. But then on the second or third watch, you go, well, hold on a minute. Was he mad from the start?
Was he mental from the beginning? Yeah.
And was all of this in his mind? Is he having some form of breakdown that none of this is real, and he's mad from the fucking start, and this is just going on and playing out in his head?
Yeah.
And you're going, I don't know. There's so
rare
many.
It's rare in it. A filmmaker will hand the film over, and they're meant to do something, but somebody sees something in it that maybe they didn't mean to do, and then that becomes a bigger part of the film. I think it's rare you get like a film where that genuinely happens, because people like Carpenter, Verhoeven's another one.
Yeah, massively.
They're not handing over something that they're hoping you tag onto, and maybe you find something in it and you fill in the gaps. They're handing over a fully finished, totally polished, know what they're doing thing that they want you to think about it 30 years down the line. They want you to remember the thing. They want you to remember Starship Troopers. Because even if, Verhoeven was a good example in terms of, what was the other one? Like Robocop. Oh, Total Recall. Total Recall, where, I watched it the first few times, great, the fella gets shot, brilliant, head comes off, ace. And then you get to the end, it's a blue sky on Mars, and I think it was like the third or fourth watch, and I went, he meant to do that.
Yeah.
That means we don't know whether it's real or not. And the thing, let's just wait here for a while, see what happens. Hold on a minute. It's not by accident, this.
Yeah.
He meant to leave us thinking about it for 40 years. He meant to. Right? He's not daft. There's a reason he got that job.
Yeah.
You know. And Mouth of Madness is the same. And if you can get past the fact that people felt like his career was changing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, pretty much anybody in the industry knew of what he was, not what he'd become.
Yeah.
And he just, I wouldn't say he'd become washed up, but he'd become less influential than what he had been prior.
But he still, but he did that. I knew we'd get round to him again, because we always do. But he did that thing that I don't think anyone's done anywhere near as well as he did, which was he put his name on it.
Oh, yeah.
Stood by his word.
Yeah.
This is not Christie.
Yeah.
This is John Carpenter's Christie.
Yeah.
Right. And it's worked because here we are, 40, 50 years
still
later.
Still talking about the dude.
Still talking about the dude. I make comics for him, and I know if I'm going to make a comic, it's got to look like what he makes.
Yeah.
And there's a reason, because people know what his name means.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness means you can go back to it and you know you're getting quality.
Yeah.
It's a rarity. That.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you know what I mean.
And you think, but pretty much every director could do that.
And
I don't know the names at the beginning of it, where it's the tiniest little subtle thing